Hello and welcome to Jesus for Asia Now. I'm Natalie Wood and my husband John is here with me today. We have a story that I think many of you will find inspirational. Hello, love.
Hi, darling. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really looking forward to sharing this story with our viewers today.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
Where shall we start?
It's about a couple that have gone to Thailand as missionaries.
Right.
And that doesn't sound really unusual except for the fact that they're retirement age.
Right. And how they got there is a little unusual.
Yes.
Because they got there
because of their children.
Kids.
Yes.
So where should we start in the story? Should we start with their kids?
Yeah.
So many will remember Jonathan and Hannah Hill,
Yes.
who do our videos from Thailand, and they have actually provided us the videos that we're going to be sharing today.
Yes.
And the couple that we're talking about are Jonathan's parents.
Exactly. So Jonathan decided to live in Thailand permanently and met his wife over there. And they got married, and they're our foreign correspondents.
Right.
So Jonathan and Hannah got to go and interview and video and profile Jonathan's parents.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yes.
We're going to start out with a video from Faith Camp in 2021.
Yes, and Jonathan and Hannah were in Thailand.
Right.
And his parents were at Faith Camp there in Idaho.
Right.
And we invited them to come up and share what their plans were, how they saw God leading them.
Right.
And while we were having a video call with Jonathan and Hannah, who were in Thailand.
Right. So let's watch that video now.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Hello.
Hello. So nice to see you.
This is
Yeah.
their mother and father. Jonathan's. Yeah, Jonathan's. So what's special about your parents? Are they supportive of your ministry, of your being missionaries?
Yeah, they are. Actually, no, they are a lot.
Actually, it's flipped. Usually the parents influence the children. And our children were so mission-driven, they influenced the parents
They influenced you to do what?
to go to Thailand.
So you're going to Thailand?
So we have been to Thailand. Actually, the first call that we received, actually the doors closed for that in 2017. We were ready to go then. And we wondered, what are we going to do now? We don't have a call to go to Thailand. But our hearts were still there. The Lord was working on our hearts, and we still had the sense that He wanted us to be there. So we decided to go. And in 2018, I quit my job, and we got our house ready to sell. We sold our house in January, the end of January 2019, and in the midst of, actually in a very tight window of snowstorms, we left in February of 2019 and spent 15 months in Thailand. Going there, expecting that when we were there, the Lord would open doors for us to a specific call. So we started to learn the language and went to Bangkok. We spent, we raised our boys in the country. And the farthest thing from our minds was to live in a big city. So 13 million people. That was quite a culture shock for us. But we learned how to do it, and it was surprisingly comfortable to live in that city for that long. In February of 2020, we got a very specific call to go to a school in Western Thailand to provide an agriculture work program for the students as well as to grow food for the kids.
Oh, sorry.
So this specific call came in February. Guess what happened in March? COVID happened, and everything shut down in Thailand, very tight. They didn't want us leaving our homes except to go buy food and one person from the household.
Jim was committed to 10,000 steps a day, and we had a room that was less than 400 square feet. And he did it.
It was a little bit like being in a prison cell and walking back and forth. But I did it, and it was a blessing. So we were feeling pretty useless in Thailand at that point. Our son, Jonathan's older brother Josiah, is a pastor in Michigan. He was going to be ordained last year, so we wanted to come home for that. So we flew home in May of last year, thinking that COVID, this little thing, is going to blow over in a couple months, and we'll be able to go back to Thailand. So, well, we all know that didn't happen. And we had a retirement visa that expired, and the Thailand Adventist Mission, who called us to the school in Western Thailand, was going to provide for us a work permit, a visa that would go along with that. So while they weren't processing those visas until I think it was like February. And the process of getting those visas, we thought, hearing all the news from Thailand, because the COVID numbers over there are exploding, that the government offices would be shut down that process the visa materials, and that it would be delayed. We got word from the Thailand Adventist Mission the day before we came to Faith Camp that our visa was approved.
Wow. Amen. Amen.
I want to appeal to you folks, because my approach to all of this has been one of great reluctance. When we first started coming to Faith Camp, which was the very first one, because of the influence of our oldest son, who was determined he was going to go, and he had his own truck, and he was going to go there by himself as well. Well, maybe we should go. And there's only been one Faith Camp that we've missed. And coming to Faith Camp, we didn't think we would ever be missionaries. We were sure we could never be missionaries. What did I have to offer to the mission field? All these people that go over there, they're so talented. They can do so many things. They can build all kinds of buildings, and I can't do any of that. Over the years of coming to Faith Camp, our hearts began to change. And then, maybe we could, but I don't know what we'd do. And then we received that call, and we started to get ready to go. So now we're about retirement age.
Really?
I'm 64 years old. Going to be 65 soon. And we're still determined to go to the mission field. But that spirit of reluctance came over me yesterday, too. John came to me and said, Jim, would you like to come up and share what's going on for you folks? I said, no. So I don't think we really have much to share. And he appealed to me a couple more times, and I said, no, I don't think so. And he was kind to me, and he said, okay, well, I'm not going to force you. Well, then we had a dear sister come to us last evening. She got down on her knees in front of us, not to beg or plead, but she says, Jim, I have a problem. I heard that you were asked to come up front and you said no. She said, there are people here who need to hear your experience. And she singled out people who are retirement age, whether you're getting ready for retirement or you've already retired, and maybe thinking that you're too old or you're at a stage in your life where you're not going to be useful. One of the things that's particularly true about Asia is they have great respect for age. So you have an opportunity for influence there that you don't have here. And even if you're old enough or physically challenged enough that you can't do what you used to be able to do, it doesn't matter, because there are all kinds of younger people over there who can work. We're going to a school with about 100 kids, and we're supposed to develop a work program. So we don't have to worry about that.
So you don't have to work.
No, I will work. I will work hard, but I don't have to do it all myself.
Yeah.
But I won't work. And that's because I have Parkinson's. And even though I have Parkinson's, it's very slowly progressing. And if I go, Jim can go, and Jim can be an influence. And regardless of Parkinson's, we each have an influence about us that we share. And so I can be a spiritual influence and an example, even though I may not be able to function like I once did. God doesn't need people to do things. He needs willing hearts so he can do things.
Another reason that we could cling to for reluctance is something that happened about 6 weeks ago. Our son Daniel was the one who initiated coming to Faith Camp 1. He spent quite a bit of time working for Jesus for Asia and spent a couple of tours in Africa and also did some touring in other parts of Asia. He got married about 4 years ago to a very lovely lady who has been a godsend for Daniel. He had been so lonely. And now his eyes just shine because he has a wife. Rebecca was diagnosed with breast cancer that's metastatic to bones and her lungs 6 weeks ago. Daniel has mentioned to us how important it has been for him for us to be close by, to give him support. We don't know what's going to happen, but we know God has a plan. Yes. Our visas just came through this week, and it's like a big shock to us that it happened. And to be honest, we're not ready to go. But we will go when God opens the doors. and trust Him that He will take care of these situations.
So you can pray for us that God would make a shining light on our path, that we would have no doubts about when and where to go.
I think we're done.
So this was filmed in the summer of 2021.
Right.
And now we have films of the summer of 2022. They've gone over there. So we're going to go and join them. And actually, it was Jonathan and Hannah that went and filmed this just recently.
Okay.
I was a parent of 3 boys, and you're supposed to raise your children and teach them all the things they need to know, and instead they would go to the church library and check out mission books, and they taught us about missions. That led us to Faith Camp, which is a whole missionary-oriented experience. In 10 years of Faith Camp, we found ourselves in the mission field.
For us, it was a long process of moving us from a place where we thought we could never go to the mission field. What do we have to offer to a mission anywhere in the world? To considering the possibility that maybe we could do something, then being asked to go, and then thinking, oh no, we have to decide now. And we went and visited and decided that, yes, this is a possibility. And at the end of our lives, it's like, it would be nice to be able to do something for the Lord's work before we're too old that we can't. So the Lord moved us in that direction step at a time, and it took quite a number of years to do that for us to come to the point where we're actually willing to go to a faraway country and leave home. And I'm so glad we did. When this gentleman, Pastor Lusick, found out that I have a background in agriculture, and actually the very first call for us to come to Thailand was to do agriculture at a school, his eyes lit up and he said, oh, you could do that at this school. What was anticipated in asking us to come and do agriculture was to help the school financially, to provide food for the kitchen so they don't have to purchase as much of the food that they feed the kids who are here. This particular school has about 100 students, sometimes more, and 50 students that are boarding students. So those eat 3 meals a day. And so the other thing is to establish a work program for the kids so that they can earn some money toward their tuition. And we will fund that with donations from folks in America. The tuition is very low here. So kids can make a significant impact on their school bill if they had an opportunity to work. And it also teaches them some life work skills that I think are very important in the process of education. If you read Spirit of Prophecy about education, having a work program is a very important part of the education process, not just having book learning.
So my goal when we came to the mission field, after I knew I had Parkinson's, was simply that by my choosing to be here, Jim could be here. And my husband can work in the fields, he can help in the school, he can have a significant impact. And my job is simply to stay well enough and healthy enough that he's able to be here and I'm able to be here. Teaching is just my heart. I homeschooled our boys and I did Sabbath school for years. So I'm helping with the Sabbath school in our church here at the school. I go to the English classes. I was asked to by the English teacher who knows her grammar and her pronunciation but isn't conversant, doesn't really have conversational English. So I'll go and just listen, and every now and then she'll say, so do you use this word or that one? And how do you say this? And how do you say that word? And class, I want you to listen to her read this, and just to improve the English speaking skills of the children and get to know them. It's been really special. Other than that, we learn about projects that are needed, things that are needed at the school. We were able to have a well dug. That's still being finalized and processed. We're talking about doing some improvements on the school building in the heat so the students don't suffer so much when it's hot. The man that called us here, we asked him what his vision was, and he said, just live your life. Just be Christian. Just be an influence. So that's what we're doing.
That's a key thing that she said right there at the end. That when they were going there, they asked the gentleman, what do you want us to do?
Right.
And he said, just live your lives.
Yes. The reason he says that is that there's not a lot of Christian witnesses in that area.
Right.
Actually, in all of Thailand and much of Asia, very few people actually know a Christian.
Right.
And then even if you become, let's say, for instance, Seventh-day Adventist, there's not a lot of culture, Christian culture, so they don't really know what that really means to be a Christian, to live a Christian life. You know, what do you do on the Sabbath? What do you do with certain things like your husband, your
If
wife?
there's a difficult situation,
Exactly.
your relationships with people,
How to handle that, how to treat others, that type of thing. And
how to connect with God even.
Yeah, absolutely. That influence, that example is more important than we think. And so valuable.
Yeah, and that was really insightful, you know, to say, just come and live.
Yes.
Because sometimes we get focused on, well, come and, you know, grow this or come and whatever.
Do something physical.
But yeah. But the importance of living
Right.
as a Christian, you know, is
Way underrated.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about Thailand is that a lot of people retire to that country. It's beautiful, it's less expensive, you can live very well on a normal income, which would be difficult to live on here in America. And yet just living there, you can, you know, go to any number of cities or towns and you'd be the only Christian in that entire town.
Yeah.
You would be a witness just by living
Yeah.
there.
So we do have another part to the video.
Okay.
So let's watch that now.
Sounds good.
Well, one of the things that's really nice about this particular country, Thailand, and it's true in many other places as well, is that there's a great deal of respect for people who are older.
And so the things that you say have great import. And people sometimes act on words that I speak, not realizing the impact I was having. And later they say, oh, thank you so much for saying this. And it's like, I said that and you did what? And it was a good influence, but there's a significant influence you have when you're older.
And also, people who are older tend to gather skills along the way, people skills, other kinds of skills that can be very useful to the Lord in the mission field.
Being older, it's a little bit harder in terms of just functioning with day-to-day living. My case is special because I have Parkinson's, but I would have Parkinson's in the States. So it's not like it would be any easier to deal with my Parkinson's in America than it would be here.
So the urgency for us has been, let's go so that we can give to the Lord whatever useful years we have left. You know, we both understood that as her Parkinson's progresses, I will have more and more of a caretaker role. But while she's relatively independent and can do the nuts and bolts of life stuff behind the scenes so that I can work at the school, well, we will do that as long as she is able to do that. When she needs more care, then we'll have to seriously consider either having extra care here for her so that I can continue to work, or we'll have to go back to America. But we'll leave that in the Lord's hands, and Jesus may come before that happens.
One of the challenges when we decided to come to Thailand, other than my Parkinson's, was that our daughter-in-law was diagnosed with cancer. And that was a pretty life-changing event and pretty traumatic.
On the early stages, it looked like it was very serious, and that she might even die within less than a year. And I felt really bad about leaving the country when our son was going to be facing that potential. Because every time that we went to visit him, he would tell us how glad he was that we came to visit. And I know it was in the back of his mind that he was facing a challenge, so that was really hard to tell the Lord, yes, we will go, even though this is the case. Since then, thankfully, things have gone very well with her treatment, and she's not cancer-free at this point, but she has made significant progress in getting rid of the cancer.
She was real clear that she didn't want us to stay behind for her, and it's a long battle. Cancer is kind of a chronic situation. It takes a long time to deal with it, to recover or not. And we committed her to the Lord's hands, and He's blessed so far.
That's just beautiful.
Right.
You know, when the family can say, we understand the call that God has on your life.
Yeah.
You know, even
And
though
we support it.
they like them to be there.
Yeah.
And we just praise the Lord for family that can see God calling their family and still say, go.
They get the concept of what we're trying to do.
Right.
When they heard God's clear voice, this was an opportunity. They had to make that decision. So it was that testing decision. But you can see the joy on their face now that they're over there.
Like Jim said in the video, basically, we wouldn't do it otherwise. We're glad we came.
Exactly.
And so the joy in service is something that sometimes we don't see on the other side of the obstacles or on the other side of the trial. We don't see that joy that will come through serving others.
Yeah, but you know, everybody needs a purpose. Everybody needs a reason. And we need a place of service where we feel like we can be contributing to the Lord's work. A lot of people think, well, you know, people over a certain age are not able to contribute in the mission field.
Yeah,
it's just not true. It's just not true. Maybe in the past when the mission work was really, really torturous or really physically demanding. But you can go and live in these countries, some of these countries, more easily than you can in America.
Right.
It's less demanding to live in certain countries than it is to live in America. The only factor that's really blocking a lot of people from going, I believe, is the unknown. We just don't know what it's going to be like.
Right.
And so that's a fear that each one of us has to work through to find our meaning.
And
they had to step out by faith and spend time over there before they received the call to full-time ministry.
Right.
And so this is the putting your feet in the water. And this is an amazing time that we're living in, that you can do that. You know, 100 years ago, it would take 6 months just to get over there.
Yeah, long boat ride.
And now it's just, you can get there in a day.
Right.
And so the world is much smaller and it's much more accessible.
Right.
And so there's opportunity for everybody.
Now, we do have another part of the video.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and watch that now.
Okay.
We lived a year in Bangkok, and as horrible as I thought it would be to live with 13 million people as neighbors, it was really okay. But this time when we came back in October, we've been on the border by Myanmar, and it's much more agricultural and rolling hills and beautiful. And I grew up on a farm. It feels like home.
When I was in my later years of my job, before I actually quit, resigned so that I could get things together to sell our house and come over here, I would often tell people that, because they would ask me, when are you going to retire? And I said, well, I'm not going to retire. That's not part of how I'm going to live my life. You know, all the things that I've seen have sort of anchored this point that people who retire and don't engage in some useful activity will wither away and die. So I don't want to ever sit in a rocking chair on the porch and watch life go by. I want to be involved. I want to be doing something useful. And, you know, when I don't have to depend on a paycheck, then I can depend on the Lord to provide something for me to do that'll be useful to Him and to His children on this earth. When you come to a place that's brand new, that's different, where the culture is different, you have to adapt. And that does create some difficulty for older folks, but it doesn't need to be a huge difficulty. You just accept what is different and learn to work with it and move on. The other thing that's somewhat difficult is adapting to different climate. It's much warmer here than where we used to live in Washington State. And one of the things for me is a great benefit about that is that I don't really have to worry about being cold anymore. That's really nice. But for some, it's difficult to adapt. And if someone is thinking about being of service to the Lord somewhere, that's something to think about. In addition to seeking, where is the Lord leading you? I don't think the Lord's going to lead anyone to a place where they can't adapt, because that would be a failure experience. I don't think that's what God wants for us. So if He's leading you somewhere, you're going to be able to adapt to it. So I think that mindset is important. But I think it's also a way to discern how is God leading you if there's particular climates that absolutely that your body can't handle. That's not where you look for God's leading. You look somewhere else that has a more conducive climate. Those folks are considering in their retirement years coming to the mission field. The thing to think about is the Lord wants all of us to be active in service for Him, no matter what our age or station in life or how much money we earn or don't. There's always some place where He can use us in His service, and we need to cooperate with Him so that He can show us where is that.
Being where God wants you to be is the best thing it is, and if that happens to be in America, that's wonderful. But if you hear Him calling you to another place, go. Don't stay behind. Don't frustrate His plans for your life. And I'm not even sure that I'm here for mission for other people as much as for myself. There's a lot of growth that goes on when you're out of your comfort zone. A lot of dependence that goes on when you don't have a whole swarm of friends to turn to. And God speaks in clearer ways, or maybe I just hear better.
I would like to invite you to pray for Jim and Irene Hill and for the beautiful children that they're serving at that school. And if you would like to be a part of their work, please contact us at Jesus for Asia, P.O. Box 1221, Collegedale, Tennessee, 37315. Call us at 423-413-7321 or visit our website at jesusforasia.org. May God richly bless you until we see you next time on Jesus for Asia Now.